Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Memories podcast, and welcome to a special audio extravaganza episode. I am your host, Tim Hannon, and with me, as always,
is the curator of the Hall of Fame of radio and audio clips, Steve Ward. Everything was not true except for my name.
So as Steve referenced, we're going to do something a little different. This episode is going to be a compilation of audio from the annals of Pittsburgh sports history. Some of it,
or just the annals of Tim's computer.
Yeah. Well, and we just dug out some clips. Some of these clips, they may be familiar. I think a lot of it's going to be stuff that folks perhaps have never heard or at least, have forgotten about or haven't heard for a long time. So rather than continue to try to explain what this is about, let's jump into some of the audio. And this is just a bunch of, again, miscellaneous things that we dug out from the archives. The first one I'm going to start with is a clip featuring Pittsburgh Penguins legend Sidney Crosby. Crosby, of course, is one of the greatest athletes in the history of Pittsburgh sports. He's won 3 Stanley Cups and multiple other accolades. And he was highly touted coming into the league. He was the first overall pick in the 2005 draft. And shortly after the Penguins selected him, he went on The Tonight Show, which at the time was hosted by a gentleman named Jay Leno. And here is some audio from that appearance.
Now you're going to be living in Pittsburgh soon. Have you been there?
Never been there. I'm going there next week.
You've never seen it. We put together a little tape. This is the city of Pittsburgh. Just to maybe reacquaint you when you get there, let's run that tape from the Chamber of Commerce.
Pittsburgh, the Steel City, the center of the American steel industry. We've got department stores, restaurants, bus stations, and all around fun. Come to Pittsburgh, the Renaissance City of America.
There you go, very exciting. Yeah. I believe those kids running down the hill are all dead now. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to hear Sidney Crosby had never been to Pittsburgh before. Now that he's, played here for 17 seasons and counting. But yeah, that was Jay Leno, kind of having some fun with some old Pittsburgh, whatever that was, trying to sell the city, Chamber of Commerce thing.
I've never been to Cole Harbor, Nova Scotia, so I guess me and Sid have two things. I guess at one point we had something. Neither of us had been to each other's hometown at that point. Not true.
Does Cole Harbor have bus stations and department stores? I don't know.
They definitely have lots of loonies, which would be Canadian dollars, I guess. in snow, I'm sure.
So that's some Jay Leno, comedy at the expense of our nice city. But yeah, funny to hear Crosby never having been to Pittsburgh. Feels like a long time ago.
Name a random city. I can't name it. I've never been to Winnipeg. And they have a hockey team.
It's not a surprise that he'd never been here. It's just funny to hear that when a guy is now a legend. Mario Lemieux was the same way. I'm pretty sure he had never been here when the Penguins drafted him as well. So
I'm not sure he spoke English.
He did not. Yeah, he didn't. Right. Or at least not very fluently.
I've been to Atlanta's airport like a dozen times, but I don't think I've ever really been to Atlanta.
Well, if you ever get drafted by an Atlanta sports team, maybe you can have a similar experience.
Well, if I get drafted by an Atlanta sports team, I'm going to be question their Arthur Blank's sanity. Or whoever owns the Hawks, I guess, or the Braves,
So that was Sidney Crosby. Another Pittsburgh legend is Roberto Clemente. Clemente played right field for the Pirates for 18 seasons. He amassed 3,000 hits. And Roberto Clemente was a very proud man. He was a black Puerto Rican, and he did not like the injustice that he saw happening back then, and he wasn't ever afraid to speak out about it. And here's him relaying a story, actually right shortly before his death. about a time when he and his wife went to buy some furniture up in New York City.
And when we used to go around, and the people, they meet us at the door, and they said, what do you want? He said, we would like to see the showroom and see some furniture. So they said that they have one floor of furniture. And so they took us to a real place where they show the furniture that was in the showroom wasn't the furniture that they were showing up upstairs. And I said, we would like to see the furniture downstairs that was in the showroom. And they said, well, you don't have enough money to buy that. And I said, how do you know that I don't have enough money? He said, well, but that's very expensive. I said, I would like to see it because I have the right to see it as a human being, as a public that buy from you. So finally, they show it to us. And I remember I just had some money. We was going to Europe, and I had some money on my wallet. I have $5,000 in my wallet, which I took the whole amount of money. I said, do you think this one can buy it? So they want to know who I was and all this stuff. And when they found who I was, so they said, we have 7 floors full of furniture, and we're going to show it to you, and don't worry about it. And right away, I just got mad. I said, look, your business is to sell to anybody. I don't care if I'm Puerto Rican or I'm Jewish or I'm whatever you want to call me. But I am Puerto Rican. You treat me different from the other people. I have the same American money that you are asking for, but I have a different treatment. So I don't want to do anything about it. I don't want to buy your furniture. So I walk out.
I looked up the equivalent of that for the $5,000 in his wallet. I looked up what that would be in today's money. It was about $40,000 that he had in his wallet. So
Just walking around with 40K there, huh?
well, and that
Yeah.
salesman literally lost $40,000 worth of
You
sales.
You know what that reminds me of? Did you ever watch the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts?
Yeah, that does remind me of that. Yeah.
Like where she goes in the store and they're like, oh, you
Yeah.
can't afford this. And then she's like, oh, and they make her cry. And then
Yeah.
like she goes to another store and like, of course, like Richard Gere like buys her everything. And she like goes back and like, big mistake.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah.
Roberto Clemente came back later, like with a bunch of furniture. It was like big mistake. I just bought $40,000 worth of furniture. Somewhere else.
But yeah, exactly. That's very similar. And I love that story of him just sticking it to that person.
It's like, oh, we got all this other furniture that we didn't have before.
Right.
But, I mean, that was probably like what 1972. So yeah, things were different back then.
Things were, but good on him for not standing for the status quo.
Yeah.
So we talked about Crosby and Clemente as, Pittsburgh legends on the field. Pittsburgh has also had a handful of legends in the booth as well. In fact, we did a whole episode about Pittsburgh media legends, so go back and listen to that if you haven't already. And I want to play a little game here. Steve, did you ever go to a restaurant when you were a kid and they gave you the placemat with the little picture games on them? There was like a maze game or a tic-tac-toe or whatever. And one of the games that I always remember on those kinds of things were like the find the thing that doesn't belong here.
Okay.
Like so for example, there'd be a picture of like a farmer and like farm animals in a barn, and then there'd be like, I don't know, like a cruise ship or something, right? And you'd have to circle the thing that didn't fit into the picture. So what I found interesting about these next couple of clips is that there have been times over the years where some of the kind of the legendary voices in Pittsburgh sports did not necessarily match up with the sport being called. And I have a few examples of this. And here's the first one, Steve. I want you to see if you can recognize this voice and tell me why it is out of place.
The runner goes. The pitch is swung on in line to center field. Here comes Bond. He'll make the catch. Going for a double play. The throw. In time. They got it. Defensive play of Barry Bonds again pays off. Hallelujah, Hollywood. What a play there.
I was hoping he would say something like that. I was hoping for a lookout Loretta, but it's obviously Hall of Famer Mike Lang. And I knew he did baseball. He said he didn't think he was all that great at baseball. But
yeah, he called Pirates games for a very short time. I think it was maybe 2 seasons in the 1980s when the team was not very good.
Yeah, he didn't do the whole season either. I think he only did like 20 or 30 games each time or something. So, but that was great. Hallelujah, Hollywood.
For Barry Bonds throwing out a guy.
Yeah.
It's man, really out of place, but cool to hear him announcing another sport.
Hallelujah, Hazelwood.
We'll go to a Pitt Florida State game for our second out of place announcer. And Steve, you'll recognize the first voice in here as being in the right place, but the second voice you'll hear is definitely out of place.
Did you say
football.
Florida State?
Yes.
No, Florida. Okay, all right. Well, I know there's another Pitt game where there would be an out of place person because I remember listening to this person. But okay, it's not this game. I'm sure it isn't. But,
so I'll play the clip. I do want to point out too the context that you're going to hear. We talked in a previous episode about how the NFL used to have this dumb rule where if the quarterback couldn't hear well enough because the opposing fans were too loud, he could appeal to the referee to make them be quiet. Remember, like Neil O'Donnell did that once.
They did it in the Silver Dome against the Lions. Yeah,
right. Well, apparently, I didn't realize this. College football at one point had the same rule, and that's what you're going to hear in this clip at Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah, that's going to work. Yeah.
Marino goes to the I formation. Second down and 10 from his own 6. Collins is a flanker right. Marino tells referee Tommy Miller, I can't hear. And again, Miller signals for a timeout and then talks to Marino about the situation. And probably what he's saying is, Myron, we can't do this all night.
Now, of course, Pitt is hoping that the real Danny Marino has come out of the closet, because that could not have been Danny Marino performing against the North Carolina Tar Heels a week ago Thursday when he threw 4 interceptions, had all sorts of difficulty recognizing defense.
Now the public address announcer telling the crowd that the game cannot proceed without a little more quiet.
Wow. Nice. Myron. I remember Myron used to have his own radio show, like a 3-hour talk show. And I remember him doing like a season preview one time when Johnny Majors came back the second time. But he did like a review of like a past season or something. So he did do some Pitt games and stuff, but I don't know if you'll have this. You don't have the Tunch Ilkin Notre Dame game, do you?
No, I never realized. So Tunch announced the game too.
Yeah, Bill Osborne, I think his wife, either he got sick or his wife was pregnant and he had to miss the game at the last second. So yeah, Tunch did a Notre Dame game, and it was like very last minute. It wasn't planned. Him and Bill did a Notre Dame game. Pitt ended up losing. It had to be like 2000s. Like I'm pretty sure it was a Rutherford game. It was one of the Rutherford games.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
But it was in South Bend too. It was in Notre Dame.
Okay, so. Wow. I never know. That would have been an interesting one to dig that out. That is not in my list of out of place announcers, but that would have been a good one too. But yeah, I never realized Myron announced any Pitt game, so that was interesting to hear him announcing a Pitt game.
We didn't get like a good Myron though, like
we didn't. We did not.
Could have called the Seminoles the Semibungles. I don't know. Yeah, I don't
know. One last out of place announcer, Steve. See if you can spot who this voice is.
2-2 now. Josh Harrison waves that bat. Grounds one inside third down the line, and Harrison rounds first, heads into second. And the ball bobbled out there, but Harrison will just walk into second base with a leadoff double here in the bottom of the 5th.
Okay, Doc's like a huge like Pirates fan, so that doesn't surprise me. And remember, they used to let just like random celebrities like come in the booth and like call like Pirate games. Do you remember Rick Santorum coming into the late? Well, not late, but our former U.S. senator. Not wishing any ill on our former senator. Although some people might, I'm not one of them. Yeah, he called like a baseball. Like he literally called it. I remember that. It was. I think it was a spring training game. I don't think it was a regular season.
So it wasn't like he just came into the booth and they were talking to him with the announcers. Like they literally let him call an inning.
Well, he was there for a minute because I think they were. they were talking. I think it was right when they first got the stadium. I want to say it was like when he was one of the people that came through with the funding, and then like something about. Remember, they used to have immigration issues with some of the players, and he would help them out. Like it was something like that. Like just. And they were just like being nice to him. He's like, oh, and whatever, pitcher kicks and deals for a strike or something. So I don't know. Good for Rick Santorum, I guess.
Yeah. I do not remember that. That would have been another good one. But as Steve referenced, that clip you heard was legendary hockey announcer Doc Emmerich. As Steve said, he's inexplicably a huge Pirates fan. Not sure why. But Doc was a great hockey announcer. He just recently retired. Definitely not as fun without him announcing. Although it's much less stressful. I used to say, Steve, I wonder what the most difficult profession would be to do with Doc Emmerich announcing. Like it's got to be heart surgery, right?
Heart surgery, yeah. Probably like bomb diffuser, like
yeah,
bomb
right.
tech. Like, it's the red wire. Oh no!
So those were some out of place announcer moments. Let's stay on the topic of announcers here for a minute. Probably one of the biggest fears that any broadcaster has is thinking that his mic is off when it really isn't. And this can happen to any broadcaster, even the best of the best. Like, for example, Al Michaels. Michaels, of course, well known for his over half a century of calling the Olympics and NFL and Major League Baseball. Well, he was calling a Steelers Monday Night Football game, and the background here is that it was a crappy end of the season game between the Steelers and the Jaguars in 1998. The Steelers were wrapping up a really bad season. Jacksonville had already clinched the AFC Central. So it was just one of those games that like they had to play because it was on the schedule. And during a commercial break, his announcing partner, Dan Dierdorf, was asking Michaels about the upcoming halftime interview that Michaels was going to do with Buffalo Bills quarterback Doug Flutie. And here is the tail end of that conversation, which happened after ABC came back from the commercial break, unbeknownst to Michaels and Dierdorf. And we're going to bleep out what was said for our podcast, but it was most certainly not bleeped out when it aired live during the game.
All right. Are you going to tell them how you're sick of this Boston College stuff? No shit. Hollis kicking off, and this is David Dunn from the 11-yard line. Flag comes in, and Dunn brings it back out, and another flag comes in at the end of the play.
Gotta admire the attempt to just brush it off like nothing happened. Anyway, back to live action.
I guess Al's not a big fan of Boston College.
I guess not.
Maybe he was just tired of hearing about it. Like, I don't know. Is he a big like Hurricanes fan or something? You like Jared Phelan clearly dropped the ball. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was referencing. Flutie had played for Boston College, of course, to turn that famous Hail Mary. So I don't know if it was like everybody asked him about that in every interview and Michaels was scoffing at that. I don't know, but he clearly did not know they were back from the commercial break. And then what do you do at that point? You just keep announcing the game. It's like it's already out there. It's already said. And that was, of course, the YouTube and Twitter days. So that didn't get, I don't remember if that got a lot of attention at the time, Steve. But it would get more attention today, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can't say anything like that ever, anywhere. Like, I don't know, maybe not even in your own basement anymore.
All right. One famous Pittsburgh athlete you rarely ever hear audio from is Hannes Wagner, because they didn't have sound bites or even really sound in film back when Wagner was playing.
Well, what was the jazz singer was what, 1927?
Yeah. That was the first talkie. So, yeah. Right. Wagner was long retired by then. That's why I found this next clip pretty fascinating. It's from 1933. And at this point in his life, Wagner is a coach for the Pirates, and he's 59 years old. And the clip begins with him being interviewed, and there's the age-old, like, back in my day stuff, which, existed even in 1933. But then it transitions into some footage of him running practice, and he's out there with the players in practice, like fielding ground balls and turning double plays. Here, take a listen.
Sure glad again to be in this old game of baseball. Got that old hot sundown beating on you. I think there's a little difference in baseball now between when I started out and what she is now. Pitchers got harder work. In other words, they ain't allowed to use the spit ball, the emery, and the mud ball, and the shine ball. And now you also need a heavier glove, and I used to wear one with nothing but the fingers on. Now I got to use this padding because they come down there just a little bit warmer. All right, come on, Doc. Let's have another, baby. Shoot, Tony. Get him over there. Come on. That's the baby. All right, come on, Cap. One out now. You got to go. Need that run to win. Let's go there, Cap. Come on, fine. Now hit the dirt when you win there. Fine start now. Come on, boy. Here we go. Let's go now. Come on, baby. Here we go. Come on. Fly.
So he's out there. I mean, you obviously can't see the footage, but he's almost 60 years old, and he's out there playing shortstop. I mean, granted, it's batting practice, but when he says, like, turn two, Tony, like, he's literally turning a double play at age 60. So, he actually had that job as an assistant coach till he was almost 80 years old. I don't know how long he was able to go out there and field ground balls, but Hannes Wagner never really slowed down. But it's just interesting to hear his voice and then hear him talk about, the good old days and how things are different now.
Ball and the shine ball. I've actually seen that clip on YouTube, believe it or not. And I wonder if anybody was left from the 27 or, well, the 25. I guess that would have been, 8 years after the World Series, and then they made the World Series in 27. So I don't know if the trainers were left or who was even on that team in 33, but 1933, my goodness, they're still in between the wars.
Depression.
Yeah, Hitler was elected, maybe. FDR just got elected. Prohibition was just ending. Not that Honus Wagner drank. I don't think he drank. I know he didn't smoke. But he just seems like his voice. He just, like, I've always heard stories. He was, like, just the nicest guy ever. Like, kids would come to his door and he would, like, sign a baseball for them. And, that was part of the reason. Like, I think we've told this story before, but, like, why his baseball card's so rare is because they put him in cigarette packs and he didn't want any kids smoking. So he would buy cigarette packs and rip up his baseball card out of it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
A genuinely good person. He was the opposite of Ty Cobb, who he played against in the one World Series in 1909. So
yes,
they literally had their good guy, bad guy matchup there.
Yeah, very, very different. I'd love to do an episode where we kind of explore that era, or at least explore Wagner in a little more.
Yeah, it'd be fun to come. Him and Ty Cobb are so opposite. Yeah, it would be interesting to do that. Yeah.
Yep. Let's go to a hockey-related clip next. Back in the 1990s, the Penguins had just this supremely talented offensive team. But the big criticism at the time, Steve, do you remember what the big criticism was of that team when they played? It was that they didn't shoot the puck enough.
Pass that thing around too much. You shoot it.
Yep.
Shoot the puck.
Always looking for the perfect pass and the perfect shot. Just put the thing on net. Well, the WDV morning show in Pittsburgh actually did a little song about that, and here is that song.
Nice.
The mule with the puck, he glides it into Francis, who gives it now to Nedved, who gives it back to Francis. He passes it to Zubov, who slides it on the boards, back around to Mario, so we must shout once more. Shoot the puck, shoot the puck. Can't you hear us shout it? Shoot the puck, shoot the puck. We're the experts, do you doubt it? Shoot the puck, shoot the puck. You might just score, I bet. Pass and pass and pass and pass. Put it on the net.
Nice. Was that Kren? Was that?
I think it was Scott Paulson.
Scott Paulson, yeah, Paulson. I also thought Paulson was a little funnier than Kren, but that's just me. But yeah, that's a classic Penguins. Shoot the puck. I like how like who was all in that like Nedved? That was definitely what was that late '90s there?
Yeah, that would have been like 96-ish around that time. Yeah,
yeah, because I heard Nedved and Zubov and
Francis. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
shoot the puck. That's I bet they still yell. I haven't been to a Penguins game in a while, but I bet they still yell it. Shoot the puck, you jag off.
Yeah, I mean that was the like sports talk show topic du jour back then. Why don't they ever shoot? So it was just funny, that song about, like just the passes it to Francis, who gives it back to, Mario. It's just, that was funny.
It reminds me of that Simpsons clip where they are like showing soccer and he's like, halfback passes the center passes the halfback.
Yeah. To finally find out who the greatest country in the world is, Brazil or Portugal. Yeah. So staying with hockey, we heard from a young Sidney Crosby earlier, and I think, one of the things that has been true of Crosby's career is that he's always very measured whenever he speaks publicly, and you never hear him really spout off in interviews or even really show a lot of emotion. I mean, that might come from the fact that he had so much notoriety at such a young age. He was probably well groomed for all that. He's all business all the time. And that's why I really like this next clip so much, because a couple of years ago, Crosby did an interview for the Spit and Chicklets podcast. If you've never heard of that podcast, it's a pretty entertaining podcast, and it's hosted by Ryan Whitney and Paul Bissonnette, who, of course, were both former teammates of Crosby. So in that interview, Crosby really kind of let his hair down. And here's him relaying a story about the time when he lived with Mario Lemieux and his family.
One of the best stories I have from my first couple weeks there, they convinced me to get a dog right away. So I was like, I was like, I don't know if I need a dog right now. Like, I can barely do my own laundry. So they convinced me to get a dog. I have a puppy. So I come back after the game and I smell something. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, puppy definitely like somewhere in the house. Like, I got to find out where this is,
This is Mario's house.
Yeah, so I'm like looking everywhere, like all over the house. Finally, I come around the corner and he's cleaning up all this like everywhere in the kitchen. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like so embarrassed. I'm like, Mary Lemieux's cleaning up my dog.
Mary Lemieux is wiping off my dog.
This is so backwards. Yeah, this should not be happening.
Wow, I never heard him swear before.
That's what I mean. He was very just letting his I've seen him mouth a few words on TV when he's in the middle of a game, but not like in an interview. Yeah. Like in an interview setting, he's always very measured. And yeah, it was just him telling that story is very un-Sid like. And it's a funny story too. Like he just, he's like living with Mario Lemieux, and he comes in and Mario Lemieux's like on his hands and knees cleaning up dog poop, and I love that. I love that whole exchange.
It was nice of Mario to just clean up and not take it too hard on him, man. Yeah.
That's why he's Le Magnifique. He can do it all.
He can score a hat trick and clean up a mess.
So another guy who's very measured when speaking to the media is Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. Again, just like Crosby, it's always a carefully crafted, short answers. He doesn't really pontificate. He doesn't really say anything controversial. So like the Crosby clip, to me, it's always fun whenever Tomlin is a little more uninhibited. And that was the case after a sloppy 2020 game against the Baltimore Ravens, when Tomlin is asked this question in the post-game press conference.
Mike, you had some red zone failures and a number of drop passes. What do you attribute that to? Anything in particular?
Sucking.
Nice. Was that Jerry Dulac? I think it was Jerry Dulac.
It might have been.
Yeah. I've heard of sucking. Well, that's to the point. Yeah. That's like Rich McKay-esque. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah, it really
What do you
is.
what do you think of your offense? I'm in favor of it. It's like, okay,
Yeah. Their execution. Yeah. That was just him again, not being very Tomlin like, right? Just yeah, we sucked. It's just not something you would hear him say often. So again, always like that whenever you hear kind of that kind of stuff from guys like Crosby or Tomlin.
He waits. He throws the pass, and it's intercepted. George Polamalu at the 40, 35-30.
Steelers versus Ravens is the best rivalry in all of pro sports. And now that series has been chronicled in Pittsburgh versus Baltimore, the unofficial history, an all-new book from the Pittsburgh Sports Memories podcast. Relive all the fierce battles and exciting moments from this amazing rivalry. There were legendary plays like Troy Polamalu's pick six and the immaculate extension, and there were crazy incidents like Joey Porter chasing Ray Lewis into the parking lot, or the Ravens putting a bounty on Hines Ward. We cover all of it, including some stories you may never have heard. Buy a copy for yourself, or get one as a gift for the Steelers fan in your life. Find it on Amazon, or see the link in the show description of this episode. And thanks for supporting the podcast.
So Crosby and Tomlin, both very measured most of the time. You know what another profession is, Steve, where you have to always be thinking about what you say? It's being a politician.
No.
Yep. It's a profession where everything you say is filtered. It's run through, polls and the certain phrases you have to use. I mean, it's just, that's what politicians do. It's also a profession where you want to be kind of like a man of the people, right? Because you're trying to get people to like you, trying to get people to vote for you in whatever the next election is. And what better way to do that than by publicly congratulating a sports team who's just won a championship?
Oh, no. There's a lot of ways this can go wrong, isn't it? Yeah.
There's ways this can go right and wrong. So let's start with here's President Barack Obama at the White House after the Penguins had won the Stanley Cup in 2016.
It is wonderful to be here. Welcome to the White House. And we are here to celebrate an extraordinary achievement. Phil Kessel is a Stanley Cup champion. Hey.
All right, so that's pretty funny.
Yes, he is.
Here's President Donald Trump at the White House a year later after the Penguins had won the Cup in 2017.
And it's a very handsome group of people. In fact, I don't like standing in front of them. First thing you know, we always like unattractive teams, right?
So that's pretty funny too. So, whether you like those guys or hate those guys, I know a lot of people are usually fall in one of those two camps.
Actually, both of them were pretty funny, because that's still a joke. Phil Kessel was a Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah,
and Trump's was pretty funny too. Yeah.
Right. Like this is a good setting if you're a politician, because you've invited the team to your home field as a special occasion kind of thing. You get to control the scene, you get to control the speeches and everything else, and you look great for lavishing praise on the local sports team. So, whether you're a fan of like an Obama or a Trump or you're not, Pittsburgh fans still kind of feel good about their team being honored at a national level like that. And, everybody just feels good after something like that, right? Well, I think there are some settings where it doesn't really work that well. And here's a good example. This is President Jimmy Carter in the Pirates locker room after they just won Game 7 of the 1979 World Series.
So he's in Baltimore? Well, I guess it wasn't that far from Washington.
The audio you're going to hear is the end of a lengthy segment where Don Meredith is interviewing Willie Stargell. And Stargell's just kind of basking in the moment. He's reflecting on what a great season it was. His teammates are all kind of in the background downing champagne. And here's Jimmy Carter very awkwardly standing right in between Meredith and Stargell. And you obviously can't see it in the audio, but Stargell's body language is such that he doesn't know who this dude in the suit is or why he's standing there. And then finally, at the end of the interview, Carter kind of tries to like awkwardly chime in because he's just kind of been standing there. So take a listen.
We've overcome a lot of things. We never gave up. We refused to be denied. I'm just so proud of each and every one of our individuals and to the Proud organization. I'm just still excited. And these guys keep me going. They won't let me. But I'm taking tomorrow off, whether Chuck likes it or not.
You can handle a lot of stars now, right?
You get one of your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think everybody learned their lesson after that one. Don't just invite them to the White House.
right. Invite him to the White House. You get to make a speech. Like, don't just stand there. Like, especially the locker room, right? Because they're celebrating. Like, what's Jimmy Carter doing there? You know, like it just didn't make any sense. Very, very odd thing. And like you said, probably a lesson learned there that that's not the place you want to go.
Was Walter Mondale not available? I think that was his vice president, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, and Jimmy Carter was not a popular president. I don't remember if.
Oh, especially by that point. Oh my goodness.
Right, with the inflation and everything else that was happening. Yeah, he's a guy that has a much better kind of public opinion post presidency. But you know that I'm guessing that did not score him any points. You know. Oh, look, Jimmy Carter's there and just kind of standing there. And now he's trying to say something.
I'm trying to think too, like, so this is 79. So when the election would have been
the year after that.
Oh, not till 80. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because Reagan wasn't sworn in until 81. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So another setting where the politician thing doesn't really work well is at team parades. You know, and those things are really for the fans, and no one really ever wants to hear a politician get up on stage and do the phony, you know, how about that team, guys, you know, thing. They just don't. So this next clip is from Sophie Masloff, the late mayor of Pittsburgh, who thought it would be a good idea to get up on stage at the Penguins' 1991 Stanley Cup Parade celebration, and it does not go well.
The mayor of the city of Pittsburgh, Sophie Maslow.
It's nice that they broke out the Casio keyboard for this celebration.
Nice. That has to be Vince Lachey, I hope.
Probably.
The whole city is fired up today.
It gets worse.
Let's go, Pigs.
Say he shoots and scores. I'll get him right there with it. He shoots and scores.
He shoots and scores with bands are back.
Didn't she say Pens win or something? Pens win the car or something. Yeah, it was. I thought she was a bigger sports fan than that, because like you can hear somebody prompting her say he shoots and scores.
So that was Mike Lang. Mike Lang standing right behind her, trying to help her to no avail. You know, he's. I think what I heard him say there is, say he shoots and scores. That'll get him right there with you, or something like that. Like that'll win the crowd over if you use one of my catchphrases. And no, that was not a good idea either. So poor Sophie. I mean,
she was on the stadium authority after she wasn't mayor for the longest time. And everybody, remember, she was the one that had the original idea for a baseball-only park. And everybody laughed her out of town. And 6 years later, they were building the park she had the exact idea for. So I think Sophie got the last laugh on that one.
She did. But again, kind of like Jimmy Carter, you know, the lesson learned here is that this is not the setting. You don't come to the team parade. Don't try to, you know, be one of the fans, right? By getting up on stage. So not a good idea. And I think that's why now, again, like the more recent stuff we heard with Obama and Trump, you know, it's much more controlled environment kind of thing. And that's probably a smart move. All right. Earlier, we heard the clip of Sidney Crosby on Leno in 2005. Later that same year, the Steelers won the Super Bowl, and quarterback Ben Roethlisberger went on the Late Show with David Letterman. Here is some audio from that appearance, and this is Ben talking about the Antoine Randall L trick play that beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
The big deal with you and Randall L in the pass and so on and so forth, is that 100%? Is that a foolproof play? How many times have you guys done that?
No, we've done it twice now. And actually, there are a lot of parts in it that we got lucky with. I pitched it to Willie, so there's the first part that could go wrong. He could drop it or I could throw a bad pitch. He has to hand it off to Antoine, which could be a fumble again. Then the cornerback was coming, so I had to block him, and a quarterback blocking usually doesn't lead to success. Luckily, I got him. But then my right guard, Kendall Simmons, fell on me, so I was hurting. And I just happened to look down and see Antoine throw a perfect pass.
Well, that's tremendous. And I think every play, or at least every other play, ought to be something like that. Don't you think so?
I think they should have a trick play rule.
Yeah. Now,
So that's Ben on David Letterman. That was kind of a weird appearance because Ben had grown this just like ginormous beard for that Super Bowl or for that playoff run. Maybe I can't remember how long he had that beard for, but on the show, at the end of that segment, they had somebody like from the audience come shave off his beard on stage. It was just kind of an awkward thing.
Obviously, that's pre-motorcycle accident.
That would have been like a couple of months before the motorcycle accident, because that was in between those two offs, or that the Super Bowl and the next season. So anyway, that's Sidney Crosby on Leno and Ben on Letterman.
Ben on Letterman. It definitely sounds very young there.
He would have been in his second season. So but again, always kind of cool when and those. Remember, I mean, those shows. I don't know how big those late shows are now, but at the time, Leno and Letterman, that was a big deal. So it's kind of cool to see those two guys on there around the same time.
Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't really watch them anymore. I don't know.
I haven't been up late enough to watch one of those, and I can't remember how long.
Yeah, it's tough when you get up at like 5 in the morning to make it to like 11:30 midnight. It's like I'd like to get more than like 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, it's too like they just got so like I don't know. It seems like they got a lot more political than they used to be. They always used to make fun of the politicians, but I guess that's a different topic for a different podcast.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Like I said, I have not watched in so long that I honestly don't even know. So that same season that the Steelers won the Super Bowl, earlier in the playoffs that year, they beat the Colts in a very dramatic playoff game in which Jerome Bettis fumbled the ball at the goal line as the game appeared to be completely wrapped up. We did an entire episode on that game. And in that episode, we talked about how there was actually a Steeler fan watching that game at a local bar, and he had a heart attack right at the moment that Bettis fumbled. And the guy's name was Terry O'Neill. Unfortunately, he did survive. And here's a news story from back then detailing that incident with Mr. O'Neill.
And this play nearly killed him. A Jerome Bettis fumble at the goal line. Bettis is his hero.
It hurt me more to see him fumble the ball and to perhaps end his Pittsburgh career that way than us losing the game. It was just more than my heart could bear.
The fumble is the last thing O'Neill remembers. His heart stopped. Fortunately for him, 2 Pittsburgh firefighters were at the bar. They performed CPR, and they saved his life.
Next thing I know, I was in here, and I regained consciousness, and I asked the doctor, did we win?
I love it. Doctor was like, yes.
So that guy's a true Pittsburgher. Like
your troponin levels are off the charts, sir. Yes, I know, but what was the score of the Steeler game? Let's get to the serious topic here. But sir, need serious heart medication. No, I want to know what the score. Did we win? Yeah, Vanderjack missed. Okay, that's all I need to know.
His heart literally resuscitated him back to life. Like his heart stopped. And they had to bring him back, and he wanted to know what the score was. Yeah, that's That's a true Pittsburgher.
I love how there's like some firefighters in the bar. I hope they weren't like on duty, just like hanging out. Well, they had to watch the Steeler game too, so
maybe just called them in every week for playoff games just in case.
Watch, make sure no Patriots got sick. That is just a classic moment. I like Paul Martino too. I think he just retired too.
Yeah. Yep.
So, everybody's retiring. I guess we're getting older. I don't know.
Yeah. End of an era.
Yeah.
All right. The next clip. I've talked on the show before about how much I just loved baseball, and I know Steve, you did too. Growing up in the '80s and early '90s, and how much we just loved the Pirates. And to me, this was like the theme music of summer. And Steve, I want to see if you remember this music.
Pirate Baseball is brought to you on KBL.
Let's go, Bucks.
Eagle Video at Giant Eagle, where you can pick up 3 movies for just $2 every day. By Capples Jewelers.
Oh, I want to go rent what year is this? 1983. I want to go rent Ghostbusters and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and maybe Groundhog Day for a little later in the 80s. I don't know.
It's a pretty good deal on the VHS rentals there.
Yeah, I mean, you got to return them. You can't just like press a button on your TV, or do people even rent movies from Netflix anymore? I doubt it, but yeah, I mean, I just remember the words "Let's go Bucks." Da, 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 da.
Yep.
I remember didn't Conn's? It was always like Conn's hot dogs too. It was like a big sponsor. I remember that all the time. So you can find them at your local Giant Eagle.
That music just still makes me happy. It just makes me think of school was out and the weather was nice, and it was like a summer night of just sitting there watching a baseball game. It's just good memories just listening to that music for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't heard that in a month of Sundays. Oof.
Yeah. Yep, I hadn't either. I had to dig that out, and fortunately found somebody that had it.
Thank goodness for your electronic hoarding.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that's a great memory. Another great memory was the 13-9 Pitt, West Virginia game in 2007 at Morgantown. We did a whole episode on that one too, and we talked about how it essentially destroyed the Big East Conference. And undoubtedly for me, the best audio to come out of that game was West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez doing the post-game press conference, trying in vain to make sense of the absolute catastrophe that had just happened, while the Pitt team celebrates in the adjacent locker room.
Picked a bad time to play our worst game offensively in years. And but I'm still proud of them.
That was just so beautiful. I mean, why in the world would they have set up the press conference thing right like on the adjacent wall of the visitor locker room? I have no idea. I mean, no one ever accused anyone of going to West Virginia University for the academics, so who knows? But
wow!
But it just that was so satisfying to not only, I mean, to win that game and then have him just sit there like just searching for words, and you can hear all the Pitt guys right behind him, like woohoo! So I still love hearing that all these years later.
Well, destroying the Big East Conference was a small price to pay for denying West Virginia a chance at a national championship.
It was worth it.
Totally worth it.
We heard from Myron Cope earlier announcing that Pitt game, and Cope, of course, broadcast Steeler games for many years, so it wouldn't be a true Pittsburgh audio episode without some Myron Cope Steelers clips. Here are Cope and Jack Fleming calling Super Bowl 13 between the Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. And right before halftime, Rocky Bleier had made a leaping catch in the end zone to give the Steelers the lead, and that's what they're referencing here.
How you doing with the towel?
Well, the towel delivers miraculous plays. Would you have expected Rocky Bleier to turn into Nijinsky?
It was Nijinsky.
Oh, then Nijinsky was a great ballet dancer.
I thought he was a defensive tackle at Notre Dame in the 20s.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So the guy that Myron was referencing there is Vaslav Nijinsky, who was a famous Russian ballet dancer during the early 20th century. And here's a fun fact about Nijinsky. During his performances, crazed fans would break into his dressing room and steal his underwear as a keepsake because, I don't know, apparently people were even more messed up in 1908 than they are today. But yeah,
I hope they were. I don't know. Whatever. Weird people are weird people, and those ballet outfits don't leave much to the imagination. So I guess people are just overcome with whatever they were overcome with lustful thoughts.
Apparently that happened. Apparently that happened like regularly. So okay,
he had to keep stock of underwear or something. Well, good for Nijinsky, I guess. He had a rep. Yeah,
he did.
Street cred.
But I thought that was just a funny exchange there between Copen and Jack Fleming in the middle of a Super Bowl too. So good stuff.
Did he dance for the Bolshoi? Isn't that the Russian ballet?
I have no idea.
1908. So that would be pre-revolutionary, right? Did you say 1908, right?
Early 20th century is all I had here.
Well, if it's pre-1917, boy, that's under Tsarist Russia. So
yeah,
I don't know. Wow, cool.
Very, very different. And
yeah,
of course, Myron knew who that was, so I thought that was just typical Myron. Myron called Steeler games all the way into the career of Ben Roethlisberger. Steve, did you realize that he was still calling games when Ben was playing?
He was very sick I remember the one game against Philadelphia, he didn't make it because he fell in the shower and they had to send somebody to his house and find him.
Okay. For some reason I had it in my head that he had retired well before that.
No, that was his last, I think that his last year was the year they lost in 2004, Ben's rookie year. He was there for Ben's rookie year, but he wasn't there the next year.
Okay.
And even Ben's rookie year, he was pretty, you could tell it was he hung on a year or two or long.
Okay. Well, here is some audio from Ben's rookie year. This is the 2004 Steelers-Patriots game, the regular season game, the one that they actually won, and some classic Myron late career commentary.
Gets the snap from Copen. Straight back. Pocket collapses. 40, 35, 30, 20, 15, 10, and he's gone for the touchdown. Perfect. An interception return by Shea Thompson, and the Steelers are burying New England.
Tom Brady is throwing for Bethel Johnson, and Bethel falls down. But man, that was an interception from here to Bethel Park.
Yeah, that was his last season, I do believe, because that's Ben's rookie year, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was his last year. Because I remember that season he missed the game. He literally he didn't show up for a game, and they were really worried. And here he had fallen in the shower. Or no, there was another game, or maybe that was the same year he showed up for a game and he had fallen and he was confused and stuff, and they had to he had to leave at halftime.
Now that you mention it, Steve, I think that's what happened. I think he showed up, and then they had to kind of get him out of the booth.
Tunch was like, "Are you okay?" Because he was all disoriented and stuff. He just was getting sick, and Father Time's undefeated. But that was definitely at that moment he still had his faculties. So that was
Bethel Johnson Park. Bethel Park, yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Myron, a big personality, of course. Another big Pittsburgh sports personality was Andy Van Slyke, the center fielder for the Pirates between 1987 and 1993. Here's Andy doing the weather on the local KDK news.
The winds are calm, 60% humidity, barometer is 30.31. The PSI, nobody cares, we're not going to take care of that. All right, up in Bradford, we're already at 34 degrees, and Cleveland. Let's forget Cleveland. Nobody cares about Cleveland.
Nice.
Yeah, that's That would have been good for ratings, just have Andy Van Slyke do the weather every night. Steve, I always hated, and I don't know if they still do this because again, I can't remember the last time I watched a local newscast, but the weather was always the most infuriating thing to me because I felt like it could have been done in 30 seconds, and it took like 5-6 minutes, and because they had to read like the temperature of every surrounding town, they had to like tell you all this stuff about the fronts or whatever. Like, just tell me, is it going to snow tomorrow or not? What's the temperature? What's the 5-day? And now with the internet and phones and everything, like I don't see any reason why you'd ever really need to watch any of that. But yeah, any events like doing it, I would have watched that for sure.
It seems too like they kind of went to like the tomato route with the weather personalities, and now they've kind of gone away from that. So I don't know what's going on there, but you're right. They tease it too, like the whole like it'll be like 6 o'clock, and it'll be like, do you want to know if it's going to rain tomorrow? Tune in, and like Joe Blow with the weather, and then it's like 6:30. Oh, Joe Blow be with the weather. He'd be like, oh, it might rain tomorrow. You might need your raincoat. Tune in to find out when you'll need it. It's like, oh goodness gracious.
Or just look down at your phone.
Yeah.
That's another way to do it.
Or stick your head out the window. Either one works.
Another well-known figure in Pittsburgh sports history is Chuck Noll, the legendary coach of the Steelers. And Chuck Noll was kind of the opposite personality of a guy like Andy Van Slyke, right? He was very stoic. He was very businesslike. He was very kind of not real interested in who likes him and who doesn't. And we know a lot about Noll from his coaching days, obviously. Here's the story about Noll from his playing days before he coached the Steelers. And the guy telling this story in this clip is Chuck Bednarik. Steve, do you know who Chuck Bednarik is?
Charlie Concrete. He played for the Eagles for a long time. I do believe he's in the Hall of Fame. He's the most famous thing that I remember him for is the 1960 almost said Super Bowl, the World Championship, which would have been between Philadelphia and New York, where he knocked Frank Gifford out for like 2 seasons. And there's like a famous photo where like he even apologized. He wasn't taunting Frank Gifford. It was a play that had won the championship for the Eagles, and he was like, "This game's over," and just kind of pumped his fist. But it kind of looks like he's taunting. Like Frank Gifford looks like he's basically dead on the ground. I mean, Frank Gifford did not play football for 2 seasons?
It was 2 seasons. Yeah. That hit literally knocked him out of football for 2 whole seasons.
Yeah. I mean, now that was 1960. Maybe medical science marches on, but still, it must have been that bad.
Well, I think the point is Chuck Bednarik was a
tough
pretty
guy.
Tough guy. I mean,
he played both ways, didn't he? I think he was a two-way player.
He was a two-way player. His fingers were like all bent in like different directions. I mean, he was just a guy that you did not want to mess with unless apparently you were Chuck Noll.
Oh, geez.
So let's listen to this next clip.
I remember on the 4th down punting situation, I snapped the ball to the punter, and as soon as I brought my head up, pow! Jeez, my helmet flew off, and I saw these little black dots in the yellow thing, and I also saw the number. Woo! And I went up to him. I said, "You son of a bitch, I'll get you."
Number 65 was Chuck Noll. The feud grew over time.
4 years later, there's Chuck Noll. Lo and behold, the game's over. Here he comes. Here he comes. He said, "Are you ready, you?" And I went, whoom. I mean, I gave him a shot, and he went down. Bert Bell fined me $500, and he said, "I want you to apologize to that boy." Now, it takes a little courage to go up to somebody when something like that happened, to say you're sorry. So I remember I was waiting, and then finally I went over and I said, "I want to apologize for what happened in Philadelphia." And he came up close to me and he said, "Bullshit."
So Bert Bell was the owner of the Eagles, right? Yes.
Was
he commissioner too?
Yeah.
He did own the Eagle, didn't he?
He did, but I think at that time he was the commissioner, which is why he fined him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then And wow, and Noel wasn't hearing it from Charlie Congrate. And so he gets knocked out by Noel, waits 4 years, and then doesn't it like? Why didn't you just hit him during the football game? Like, maybe they didn't cross paths that game, or Noel didn't. Like Noel was like what, a substitute, right? He was the guy that would bring. Was he the guy that would bring into play for Paul Brown, right? Because they had to be playing the Browns, right?
It would have been Cleveland. Yeah. I don't know why it took 4 years for them to.
And then not to do it during the game, like after the game. That's why he got fined. He does it during the game. Nobody would have cared.
Right. No, I don't know. I mean, he didn't elaborate on the history there, but I just love the animosity there and the like, I call it like, I know they're making you apologize. So BS. Chuck Noll again just was not a person that tolerated people he didn't like. So, and you saw that with, Jerry Glanville years later and stuff like that. So that was just an interesting insight into his character, like when he was a player. So good story there from Chuck Bednarik and Chuck Noll.
Can you imagine what that happened today? Oh my gosh. Like Aaron Donald goes and like punches, I don't know, some random player. That'd be horrible.
Well, it couldn't happen today because it would just be hyper covered, and you certainly wouldn't have 4 years between whatever.
Yeah,
we've had some feuds before. I mean, I look at like Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett a couple of years ago. You know what happened there?
Yeah.
I mean, you just stuff like that is just if anything happened like that today, it would be again hyper covered. There'd be suspensions. There'd be all kinds of stuff. So. Let's wrap up this episode with a little Pittsburgh Sports Top 40. Here are some Pittsburgh sports stars.
Right there, Casey Kasem. All right.
Here are some Pittsburgh sports stars who embarked on music careers for better or for worse. And we're going to start with Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw actually recorded 6 country music albums. 6. I didn't realize that.
He had a top 40 hit, I think, with one song.
Well,
Is this the song? Yeah.
Yep. His biggest.
I'm so lonely I could cry, or something like that.
That's the one. Here it is. He made the Billboard Top 100.
It's actually not horrible.
Yeah, this is 1976. Terry Bradshaw.
Hear that lonesome whippoorwill. He sounds too blue to cry. The midnight train is winding low.
Oh my God. Isn't that a joke? Like in the that David Allen Coe song that like it doesn't have mama or a train or a pickup truck, and it literally had a train in it. It did have a train in the lyrics. So Terry crossed that off his bingo list for country music. So wow, I guess that was not as good as I mean. It wasn't a horrible musically. Musically, I don't like it because I'm not a country music fan. But you know what I mean? It's not so bad. You're not embarrassed. Besides, it's just not my style. Yeah,
it's a little dated too. I mean, country music sounds a little different today than it did then. But
I think that's a cover. I think that's a song from the 50s or 40s.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's actually it's even older than 1976. But yeah, that was Terry's biggest hit, and 6 albums. I mean, that's pretty good. Years later, another Steelers superstar would put out an album of his own in a slightly different genre. Here is legendary rapper Le'Veon Bell with "Making Moves."
I'm making these moves, I do what I do, these niggas is doomed. They thinking I'm sick like I'm catching the flu. I'm so out of orbit like I'm on the moon. I'm trying to run up some bitches, I'm trying to see who all with it. I'm that one pleasing these women, I got that rep from the beginning. I told her I wanna hit it, yeah.
Yep. That was not good.
I am by no means a hip hop expert, but yeah, that was pretty bad. Let's mix it up with some rock alternative. Here's former Pirates pitcher Bronson Arroyo.
It can only get worse. Wait a minute. I guess. And I love that. And that's like my favorite Foo Fighters song. And
Yeah. So if you recognize that song as Everlong by the Foo Fighters, yes, you are correct. Arroyo's album was in fact all cover songs that he and his band performed. So I mean, not bad.
it wasn't. It was better than Le'Veon Bell. At least it was on key. I mean, it wasn't like phenomenal. I definitely say Terry definitely had the best song so far. So
Yeah, I agree. And like that was just like a crappier version of Everlong, like it, you know. So nothing really to write.
I guess
about.
at least Bell's was an original composition. So I'll give him that.
Yeah,
I'll give him that.
That's true. Yep.
He was making moves.
He was making moves. Not necessarily the right moves, but he was making them.
Millions of moves that cost you millions of dollars, but
Yep. Last but not least, let's hear from Sean Gilbert, the Pitt All-American defensive tackle who was the third overall pick in the NFL draft.
And the uncle of Darrell Rivas, right? I do believe.
Is he? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, here's Gilbert performing the song "You're My Boo."
Hey, what's up, Q? Oh, man, nah, I ain't messing with y'all tonight. That's D Rich. I'm looking for my boo. Yeah, you seen her? Oh, there she go. Yes. Oh, man. Woo. I think I just got love drunk. It hit you just like that. Make you feel like this, listen. Ready or not, here I come. Just seeing you, I think I'm love drunk. Intoxicated by your smile.
Ooh. Look out, Luther Vandross. Wow.
So smooth.
That actually wasn't bad. That was definitely dated because it's definitely from the 90s. But his voice actually wasn't horrible there. It was better than, I would say I put that up with Terry, if not just as good as the Terry Bradshaw. I mean,
yeah. And if
I don't know, was that original? I don't know if that's an original song.
I don't know, but
yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I don't know if it's not going to make it on the radio, but so you didn't channel your inner Casey Kasem. That's our top 30 countdown.
You could definitely do a lot worse there than Sean Gilbert did there.
No long distance dedications, or I mean, maybe Le'Veon Bell could give a long distance dedication to his playing career.
Poor Lev. We love
Terry
Lev.
could give one to his sanity. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, there you have it, folks. The Lost Pittsburgh Sports Audio Collection, Volume 1. Order now on cassette or CD. Steve, any last thoughts?
It's coming soon to a National Record Mart, so go to your local National Record Mart and you can buy it on cassette. On cassette, yeah.
Yeah, all these audio. We'll have a mixtape of all these clips we played here today.
There you go.
Well, hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, something a little different. Just tried to pull some audio that folks maybe hadn't heard before. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. If you'd like to continue to support the show, please go out and give us a review on whatever podcast service you're listening on. Tell others about the show. Check us out on the web, on Facebook, on Twitter, and we will catch you next time.